Welcome to all the Councillor Ward 2 candidates here for interviews. We thank all of the candidates who put their name forward for the position and the residents who have sent letters of support for their favorite applicant. Please note that this is a special council meeting and will not be taking any questions from the gallery this evening. So we'll move forward from the agenda, and that's the adoption of the agenda. Motion comes forward from Councillor Gorell and seconded by Councillor Lackey that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Any discussion? I see no hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. Next item is declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare? I have no hands up. So we'll move forward with number 4, which is delegations, presentations, Councillor Ward 2 candidate interviews. Each candidate in alphabetical order shall be given the opportunity to speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. They must answer the 3 questions within the 10 minutes that is allotted. Please speak directly into the microphone, which is there on the table when you are actually speaking. If time permits, within the 10 minutes allotted, council shall be allowed to ask any follow-up questions. The CAO will be asking the questions of each candidate and facilitating any follow-up questions to ensure that the process is fair and neutral. A timer will be used to ensure that the process is accurate. The CAO will ask all 3 questions at once and then let you respond to them within the 10 minutes allotted. If you'd like to ask the CAO to repeat the questions, please, at any time, please ask. So I'll turn it over to our CAO.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. The first candidate is Mr. Bryant. The 3 interview questions are as follows. 1, what prompted you to apply to serve on council? Are you muted? There's some feedback. Are you, your speaker? Excuse me. Your little speaker sound thing. Okay, I think that's better. Sorry about that. Nope. Click start. Let's try that from the top. What prompted you to apply to serve on council? The second question is, what experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And the third question is, what are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands is facing?
Okay. So what prompted me to apply to serve on council was I'd actually been asked by several members from the Lyndhurst area, which is where I live, if I would consider putting my name forward for the position to represent the people that live in Lyndhurst. And from the experiences of my personal and professional life, I own a small business that I started in the middle of COVID with no collateral or anything like that. We started a business because there was a need for the business to start. We've been serving the community of Leeds and Thousand Islands and Gananoque for 3 years now. It's turned out to be a very successful business. Other than that, my background, I've served on several boards with both the Legion and the Provincial Locksmiths Association. I serve on the boards there where we're constantly dealing with monies that come in, how to make a budget, how to spend that out, and help to improve the community and the people that we serve on those boards. When I ask about what's the most important issues in the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands, I actually went out and asked several people in my area what they thought this answer would be, because to me as a counselor, I need to represent the people that are around me. And the questions that came up were, of course, the roads, the cell service, things like this. And what came out and what was apparent was that the communication is what's lacking, that I think that's the biggest need for us. it's not that we have the technology here, we have the webinars and we see what the council's doing. But out in my area, we don't really have cell service or internet. So most of us don't get to tune in and see this. For example, one of the people that was brought up was about the roads, the dirt roads that we have. They had no idea that the county's already working, replacing the gravel with limestone to make them better roads. They didn't know this. And once they knew, it was like, oh, wow, hey, that makes sense. So I think if I were counselor, one of the things that I would try to do is hold more town hall meetings, so to speak, in my area to let the people that I represent realize what's going on and how the county is addressing, or the township, I mean, how the township is addressing the needs of the people that we serve. Because I think once the communication is back and people understand what's going on, I think there'll be a lot less upset people that, like the cellular service. There's actually a plan that's in place to fix that. Yeah, it's a long-term plan, but nobody really knows it. I think the people that serve here serve well, but they don't really blow their own horn much. And so the people out in my area, we don't get the internet. We don't get to see this. We don't know what's going on. That's all I have. I'm sorry.
Great. That's great. Are there questions from council? Councillor Fody.
Thank you, CAO. You hadn't really touched on it, but what community involvement do you have in the township?
Well, I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce there, and the chamber does a lot of work with like the Turkey Fair. They do work with the bringing kids in. They have fishing derbies and all kinds of things like that to try and bring businesses into the township area. I serve with that. I do a lot of work also with one of the charity things that I do is a lot of times people are injured or arthritis or whatever. They've had problems with security of their homes and things like that. A lot of times I'll raise money from the churches or whatever to try and pay for the supplies, and then we donate our time to try and help the people who can't help themselves, provide security and stuff for their homes.
Any further questions from council?
Through you to the chair. Mr. Chair, I'm gonna just leave this question for all the candidates, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to know what you believe to be the relationship between a volunteer position, volunteering for things in the community, and council, whether there be similarities or differences.
I'm not really quite sure I understand. Can you rephrase that one more time?
What you believe to be the relationship between a volunteer position, volunteering for community, your community involvement versus a council position, what they would do.
I think they're kind of one and the same. In the past, I've worked with like volunteer fire departments. I've worked with other volunteer groups that help out in the community, food banks and stuff like that. I can't see the chamber being much difference because we're here to serve. We're here to represent the people that have elected or appointed us. And I mean, it's not a job you're going to get rich on, but so I think the fact that it's kind of a step up from volunteering, but I think the intent is the same. It's your job. What you want to do is to help better your community. I'm not sure if that really answers your question or not, but.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Okay. Ms. Foolish.
Mr. CAO, Can I ask you to hold? We're having an issue that the
Of course.
people online aren't able to see the speakers, so the clerk's just gonna.
I have an idea. I just want to run it by you guys.
Okay. I have no
Okay.
problem with that if we can have a recess.
Sorry, we'll be right back. We'll just take a 2-minute break here.
you would like to see, or things
Um,
that you've seen in other jurisdictions?
Tuesday at Morton Hall, they usually have coffee. And it's nice to be able to get the residences of all our little centers to come and visit. Maybe there are issues that could be solved. Someone might have a problem with something. I know that we also in the Morton Hall have bands come in to play. A lot of the seniors who are alone usually don't have transportation. So it'd be nice if one of them or any one of us could go and pick them up and join the coffee club.
Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the chair, through the chair. You've listed a number of things as far as affordable housing, Wi-Fi, internet, potable water. Can you give an example out of any of those and how you would go about fixing the issue?
With the potable water, I believe we need to assess where the water is coming from, why is it contaminated? And basically do a cost overhaul. Is it possible to ensure that the people that are having lousy water do get some fresh water?
Councillor Grell.
Excuse me. Thank you. Vera, you mentioned Petawawa and
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned experience here. Could you just highlight that again for me, please?
I was in Petawawa for 12 and a half years. And out of that, being an Army medic, we'd go out in the field and stuff, but we always volunteered. And my time was volunteered in the community of CFB Petawawa. And I was elected or nominated to be a ward councillor for Ward 10 for the 10 years that I was there. And our mayor was ill briefly, and I took on the job as deputy mayor.
And that's in the village or the town of Petawawa?
It was CFB.
CFB,
Petawawa. At the
Petawawa.
time, the township was different.
Mhm.
So there were
Mm.
two sectors.
Yeah.
And usually we would congregate together on certain points.
Yeah.
And I just found out that now it's 25 years since the two have amalgamated. So it's now one Petawawa Township.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions real quick. Your Ukrainian language came from where, and also your background in scouting?
My father immigrated to Canada in 47. He was the one that was Ukrainian. My mom was German and she immigrated from Germany in 53. I spoke both languages at home, and my mom was really insistent on going to either a Ukrainian school or German school. And I spent 12 years in the Ukrainian school system. You're welcome. And you had another question. I'm sorry, what was the other one? Scouting. My sons who were young were in the scouting organization, and I helped out. But being a nurse, I also managed the scout camp as the camp nurse. We had a great time.
Are there any further questions from council? Very good. Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Dulish. Mr. Jackson. Thank you.
What do we touch? Just the mouse?
Thank you. I think we're all settled in. So once again, the three questions for the candidates. What prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And the last question, what are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands is facing?
Members of council, township staff, fellow residents, sitting at this council table should not be an aspiration or a longing. It should be a desire to serve, to give of oneself in the service of others. Deputy Mayor Gordon Olkey taught us a great many things during his time on council, but perhaps one of his most important lessons is that in public service, love of community and a desire to do good for your community must be first and foremost in your heart. Not tenure in the community, not family name, not who you know, not even what ward you live in. Simply love of community. The person you selected to sit in Gord's chair and continue his commitment should be someone who can show true love of this place we call home by demonstrating a history of that love through volunteerism, both publicly and privately, at places like the Lyndhurst Turkey Fair, the Fairgrounds Horse Exhibition, the annual Sealy's Bay American Graffiti Gar Show, as well as our various committees of council and our local volunteer groups. Someone who can demonstrate a clear understanding of who we are, where we are, and how together we can move forward, and with skill sets that match our council and our staff. While I don't have the longevity of service as my ancestor Elizabeth McDonald, who served this very community 150 years ago, Barbara and I have called this home for 50 years. Moving back here after serving 17 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, we moved back here because, like Gord, we love our community. And it is that love of community that has me sitting here before you today. I've also come here before you because as challenging, humbling, and yes, humiliating as it is, I'm standing here with the hope that I will sit and serve with you again, representing all of those from within our ward and within our township who have asked me to come before you. And to be clear, my supporters are not just restricted to Ward 2. They come from all walks of life and all wards, which is how I would serve for the good of the whole of the community, because political boundaries should not matter. What prompted me to apply to serve in this council was, again, not just my love of community. It goes much deeper. It goes to human nature and what I believe we were all put in this earth for a purpose, to leave our mark, no matter how little or how great, simply to leave our mark, a positive mark. I've also come before you because I believe I have skill sets that will complement yours and our staff with the great many issues we face. Some of those issues we can resolve on our own, while many others are either out of our control or so expensive to resolve on our own, they require us to open doors to partnership opportunities with communities around us. At the top of the list is affordable housing that allows our seniors and low-income families opportunities to stay in the place they love, but not move. And that can be addressed with ideas that involve a well-thought-out community improvement plan. We also have our residents of Lansdowne facing unsustainable water and wastewater rate increases. It can be addressed with ideas that include setting up a new reserve with casino intake funding. Our nagging issue of reliable and affordable internet service that allows our seniors to stay socially connected, our youth to study at the same level as their peers outside of our township, and equally as important, our local businesses to compete and prosper at a 21st century level, was again ignored by our province this past week with their latest press release. And yet we could give every single home in this township that needs it a Starlink dish for less than $800,000. We also have pending waste management issues that we should consider working with communities around us with ideas that consider biogas or environmentally friendly incineration projects that could heat or cool local businesses and homes. In addition to our more than $200 million in capital infrastructure, eating up more than $7 million of annual revenues, we also have a capital infrastructure deficit that requires an almost 2% tax increase annually for the next 15 years. This is unsustainable for a great many and will impact our township over the course of that next 15 years unless we find ways to identify whether we need new or whether we should be keeping what is old. We have little in the way of real recreational facilities that allow our seniors, our youth, you and I, a place to stay active and healthy 365, while at the same time making it difficult to access what we have because of cumbersome insurance and administrative issues. We have transportation issues that restrict our residents who want to work but can't get to work outside of our township, forcing some to move out and closer to prospective job opportunities when we could be working with our neighbors on a transportation master plan that puts those in need front of line. And of course, rising insurance costs and the reality that we are becoming as litigious as our American neighbors, opening the doors to the courts, awarding costs to those with the deepest pockets, meaning us as a municipality. You've asked what experiences from my personal and professional life I see as strengths in shaping how I could approach serving on this council. And this is the most difficult question for me to answer. Because for the most part, what I will describe, I've kept private, but simply answered, it boils down to no matter the challenges or differing views, I was and am able to work with all sides to achieve what is best for our residents with strong, effective communication skills, adept research and analytical skills, magnified by a clear understanding of our township bylaws, Robert's Rules of Orders, the Ontario Municipal Act, our budget process, and many more skill sets that can best be shared with examples. And oddly enough, it starts with Ms. Gatsby. More than 16 years ago, the chair and I were two of the original founders of our first Township Taxpayers Association that was, in its infancy, a strong, effective voice for our residents. Shortly after that, and at the request of Mayor Harold Greer in 2006, I crafted our original post-amalgamation bylaws, including our complaints bylaw, our procurement policy, and our community grants bylaws. At the request of Mayor Frank Kinsella in 2007, I sat on our township's first casino fund allocation committee, spearheading the drafting of our original casino reserves fund policy. Elected in council in 2014, I was able to work with our staff and the rest of my council colleagues to get my private laneway grant policy, flag protocol policy, township village signage policy, and my new property standards bylaw all passed and implemented with unanimous support from the council table. I was able to secure turtle crossing signs for County Road 3, a new and effective boat launch constructed at Furnace Falls in the village of Lyndhurst, a contractor's dock in Gananoque, electrical hookup at the dockage in Lyndhurst. I was able to work with our fire chief removing derelict mobile homes that sat for years, negatively impacting the residents of our Big Hill Road community. A flagpole erected in the village of Lyndhurst, and working with the Upper Canada District School Board, one of our local volunteers, another flagpole for our Veterans Memorial outside of Ty School. I was invited by Angela Kelman to sit on their first meeting with Save the Sweets Corner School, which we collaboratively worked together with and were successful in doing. I drafted our township's first code of conduct document that was eventually used in its entirety to create our first code of conduct bylaw. I was a driving force in identifying and exposing problems with our libraries, questionable accounting practices, as well as the questionable agreements we signed with an international tour operator working out of the Sealy's Bay Marina. But the two most important accomplishments and evidence of my personal and professional strengths were my leadership abilities in starting a grassroots movement of local residents that included the Kehoe family, Councillor Gorell's father-in-law, Hunter Grant, local businessman Joe Powell, and a great many others who opposed our draconian 2018 official plan. With the community behind us, I and my council colleagues were able to create a divisive policy with something that, while not perfect even today, was something our parties could agree to. And finally, working with the CAO of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, I created the Pay Shoulder strategy that finally adopted and implemented now allows residents across our United Counties to finally walk, run, cycle, and yes, even move farm equipment safely down our county roads. While it might be easy to sit back and question or put aside much of this as insignificant, to those in the community that were affected by or benefited by my efforts, they were so much more. They were what I was asked to do as the elected representative, and they were what I was able to accomplish through effective communication, compromise, and a clear understanding of the facts before me. Skill sets and experience that are needed in the role of an effective municipal councillor. Allowing me to sit at the council table brings a seamless transition to a somber situation and ensures that as a council, we transition and move forward with little or no learning curve hindering the work that needs to be accomplished. All of the skill sets I've described and are complemented with my recently completing my Bachelor of Commerce degree, cum laude, attaining an almost perfect GPA, focusing on the challenges of ethics, values, and laws in the workplace, business development, and finance. In addition, I am a certified professional accountant with more than 30 years of finance, tax, and budgeting experience. in both government and the private sector. And I've left you 30 seconds to ask me questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Short time frame. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Kelman. Thank you, Ms. Kelman. I'll repeat the 3 interview questions. What prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? What are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands is facing?
Thank you. Thank you, CAO. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Angela Kelman. I first moved to the township 35 years ago as a child with my family. After I finished university, I moved back to the area with my husband, and 22 years ago this month, we purchased our home on Old Briar Hill Road, where we are raising our 4 sons. Early last summer, I had a conversation with someone who I consider to be a leader in our community. And she asked me if I had ever considered running for council. We were discussing the upcoming fall election, and I was kind of taken by surprise. It was not something I had ever considered, but I said I would think about it, and I did. But at the time, I felt it wasn't the right time for me, primarily because I was very satisfied with the work that our incumbents, Councillors Olkey and Jameson, were doing on behalf of our ward. I did not want to run against either of them, and I did not want to take votes away from either of them. But the idea was put in my head, and I thought at the time that in 4 years, should circumstances change, I would certainly consider running then. Unfortunately, as we all know, those circumstances changed much sooner than any of us would have wanted or anticipated. When Councillor Olkey passed away suddenly and left a vacancy on council, I, like most, assumed that there would be a by-election. I was approached again by several members of the community that either knew me personally or knew of the community work that I had done, and asked if I would put my name forward, and I said that I would. Again, council decided to go a different route, not go the by-election route, and here we are today. I believe community service is extremely important, and I always have. I've always made an effort to take part as much as time allows around raising my family. I think especially once I started a family, I really felt the support of my community in many ways and through many organizations, and I felt like I wanted to reciprocate that. I also think it's very important to set that example for my children, that they need to look beyond their own lives and take part in the community that they live in. So for me, serving on council just feels like a really natural progression to what I have been doing over the last couple of decades. It feels like a new and interesting way to serve the community that I live in. Otherwise, I bring no agenda to council. This is my home. This is where I've lived and worked and recreated and shopped for most of my life. I care very much about the people that live here, many of whom I count as friends. I have family in the area, and I also care very much about the place that we live in. We're very lucky to live in such a beautiful place. So as I mentioned, I've done a lot of work over the last couple of decades on quite an array of committees and councils, primarily focused through my church and through the local schools. I have learned a lot from those experiences. I particularly believe that it's very important to be unbiased, to not look at something from your individual point of view, but to look at what is best for the greater good, to be positive. It doesn't mean that a group or a council needs to agree on every issue, but you need to have polite discourse. A lot of animosity or a negative attitude, I feel, is just completely counterproductive. I also feel it's very important to listen and to be well researched when you're looking at any particular issue or making a decision in any way. I learned a lot of this through my experience with my church, through serving on parish council in a number of ways, including the leadership role as chair, and through our larger diocesan committees and of the board of directors for Camp Hyanto. I've seen my church evolve over the years from a 3-point typical little country parish into something that's very mission focused, meaning we look to see what the needs are in the community and we seek to serve those, to meet those needs, to the point that my Anglican church is now not run through a church building, but through a thrift shop that serves the community. I've also been very involved in both of the schools in our area, both our elementary school at Sweets Corners and at the high school that serves our ward and Rideau District in Elgin. And I was on the school council at Sweets Corners for many years, including the last 5 as chair, serving my last 5 years there as chair. At the start of that period, the Upper Canada District School Board conducted an accommodation review, and they assessed all of the schools in the board based mainly on capacity and how the school was utilizing that capacity. And they created a list of schools that were being considered for closure. Sweets Corners was on that list. In Ward 2, in the communities of Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay, the vast majority of children do attend Sweets Corners from kindergarten to grade 6, and we do consider it a center of our community. So a group of very dedicated parents came together under my leadership to seek to find ways to look into why we were on that list and what we could do to have ourselves removed from it. It involved a lot of research. It was a team effort. I set from the beginning a very positive tone. A lot of schools sort of took the tact of attacking other schools. I said, every community appreciates their school. Let's just focus on what our positives are here. We made a presentation at a large area meeting, and we did have our school removed from that list. I also drive a school bus and this is my 7th year doing so. So I know the roads. I know many roads in this township better than I would like to, but at the same time, it's given me a very deep appreciation for the work that goes into maintaining those roads all year round. And I will tell you that plow operators and grader operators are a school bus driver's best friend. When I'm asked to consider what I think is the biggest issue facing our township, I would actually give a broader response. I've been attending some meetings as I knew this date was approaching, and doing a little bit of background, looking into some background information. And I do know that our township, that the council and the staff now operate under an asset management plan, which I think is a wonderful tool to have. And I recognize the huge amount of work that must have gone into putting that plan together. But what that plan does is give very real fiscal restrictions to the council and staff and what they can do each year in terms of budget. At the same time, we live in a community full of individuals and organizations and businesses that are very positive and want to be very progressive and grow the community and be innovative. So I think it's incumbent upon the council and individual councillors to be able to communicate back to the residents of their ward and the entire township how we need to balance those expectations with the reality of the budget that we have to work within and the asset management plan that we now have in place going forward. At the same time, if I had to give a particular area of concern that I have, it is housing. Over the years, I've known many families that would like to move to this area or would have lost housing in the area for one reason or another and aren't able to find new, adequate, affordable housing. And of course, that problem has just been exacerbated over the last couple of years. I think rentals have always been an issue in this area, and now we see housing prices going up as well. And my concern is that we become a community where the people who work in our restaurants and our grocery stores and drive our trucks and our school buses and are the ECEs in our schools can't afford to live in the community that they serve. So I think that's certainly an area that we will be needing to address as a township for many years to come. I also recognize that there's limited solutions. It's a rural area. Most of us are on well and septic. And even in areas like Lansdowne, where there is a municipal water system, as I've learned recently, there are limitations on that as well. My hope would be that should any of my children or grandchildren want to stay in this area or return to this area as I did to live, that even with a modest income, that they would be able to afford to live here and find a decent place to live. I'll just conclude by saying again, I love this area. I am devoted to this area, to the people that live here, and it would be a great honor to serve on this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Okay, not seeing any questions. Thank you. Do you want to ask questions now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. Carry on.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No.
If it's okay with everybody, we need to take a 2-minute little break.
Do I start my video? There, I'm there, beard and all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll continue on now with the candidate, Mr. Lawler. The 3 interview questions again are: what prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And what are the most important issues that the township in Leeds and the Thousand Islands is facing?
Perfect, thank you. Your worship, councillors, staff, fellow candidates, residents. Those that know me know that I'm not long in words, so I'll be short and to the point, hopefully leaving time after for questions. In regards to what prompted me to serve on council, as you all know, or don't know, I served on this council in the past. And prior to that, I was the deputy mayor for the town of Gananoque. I feel that if anyone has concerns with the way that a municipality is run or a council is being run, they should have the wherewithal and courage to put their name forward for election, or in this case, for appointment. I feel that I have the ability and the background to serve the residents of the township, and that is the reason why I've put my name forward today. Experiences from my professional and personal life that give me the strengths to sit on council. I've spent the last 22 years residing in the township. Since graduating from college, I've spent the last 33-ish years of my life on and off in the public sector. My experiences of a police officer, as the deputy mayor in Gananoque, as a councillor here in the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands, as a board member for the RTO 09. It's the provincial tourism authority for this area. As a board member for the Kingston Real Estate Board, as a business operator, and as a real estate broker. All these factors have kind of combined to allow me the growth pattern to become the person that I am today. Last being what I think the most important issues are for the township going forward. I've kind of broke them down into three, and I think all three kind of walk hand in hand with each other. But the first being growth. I think the township, in regards to the tax base, needs to continue with the population growth, and the population growth needs new builds. We need more homes in the township to spread the tax base across. And with that, I think the municipality has to foster an environment where the government is a helpful avenue and not a hindrance towards that growth. Next being fiscal sustainability. The municipality and council during the budgetary process has to be mindful of the budget growth in regards to a balanced reserve. The balanced reserve is what's going to help the municipality move forward in regards to the asset management plan. That in conjunction with the balancing of the needs and wants of the municipality and the residents, that is. Third being economic development. We have to use the municipality's attributes for our economic development. We can't be everything to everyone or everything to every business that wants to come to this area. Growth in economic development has to be done within the kind of the framework of what we have. The last question Councillor Lackey asked in regards to what I think the difference between community involvement and being a member of council. That's one I really haven't never really researched and gave much thought to. I think the biggest thing is the framework that you sit with, being that the community involvement doesn't carry the same, I guess, legal responsibility that someone on council or the council itself has. So there's a little bit of greater oversight on council and the optics of council than a community group. In regards to social media now, when you put your name forward to council or get elected to council, you're held on, it doesn't matter what you do. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people think you're doing okay. A small majority of people think that you're not. So you have to have the wherewithal to get through that process of doing the best for your community and not worrying as much what the naysayers say. In closing, I just want council to realize that yes, this is a seat for Ward 2, but the geographical location of my home should not disqualify me for being the best candidate for this position. Those that know me know that I've worked the last 30 years of my life for the betterment of my community and the betterment of everything that I've been involved in. And I think that my past will allow me to work with the township and with council to move forward. And council knows that once you're in the position, the decisions that you make are for the whole township. The decisions aren't made based strictly on what ward you represent. The decisions are made for the whole township. I thank you very much for having an opportunity to come this evening and speak to you, and I look forward to any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Councillor Lackey.
Through your worship to the chair, Mr. Aller, you brought up the ward system 2 or 3 times. Would you mind indulging us in some of with the years of being on this council, the projects that you have been involved in approving and helping get off the ground in Ward 2?
Oh. It was a few years ago. In regards to Ward 2, I think the biggest would be the fire training center. I guess the biggest expenditure would have been the fire training center. The drainage in Lyndhurst, the extension of the docks in Sealy's Bay. I think some of the capital expenditures at the time, the capital expenditures, whether they were good money at the time, but the Sealy's Bay Community Building, Fire Hall, offhand, there's probably, I know there's many more, but unfortunately, offhand, that's pretty much what I have.
Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lawler, just tapping into your expertise, seems you were involved in your admission here of the Lyndhurst Training Center. What's your take on it now from its inception to where we are? Was it the right thing to do? I'd just like to hear your words on that.
If you look at it strictly as a business, I don't think anybody could say that. Is it self-sufficient? I don't think so. But if you look at it as a training facility to be able to have the best qualified firefighters that we can have, I think it's a good asset for the community to have. I think moving forward, a lot of other communities around us have the larger communities have training centers, but I think more has to be done in regards to going out, enticing other fire services to come and use the facility that we have to offset some of the costs of the residents.
Are there any other questions from council? Okay.
Perfect. Once again, thank you very much, and good luck with all your deliberations.
Mr. Robertson.
Stop.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. The questions again are, what prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And what are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands is facing?
Thank you and good evening to everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody today and expound on those questions, which I hope to be covering off through my remarks. A special thank you to any Leaf fans that are present, because I know you're missing possibly the last game of the season. So I do appreciate your sacrifice there. I'm humbled by the candidates I've heard so far and the qualifications that they bring to your selection process, and I will hope to add my own. So I'm here to provide you information that hopefully will inform your collective decision to fill the vacant councillor position, which was created, as we know, by the tragic passing of your colleague Gord. Hopefully I will be able to convince you that I'm the best candidate to finish his electoral term. I will be concise in my communication. I would also point out that that is a strength that I would bring to council, is being concise and precise in my deliberations and in my remarks and comments at the table. I've been a resident of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville for the past 10 years and a resident of the township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands for the past 4 years. In short, if I can move a phrase, I'd say I may have moved here for love, which was to marry my lovely wife, Nicole. But it was love of the area that's kept us here, and it's love of the area that will allow us to continue to build our lives here. It really reminds me of my home community, which is a small village up in the area of the Lindsay-Peterborough area, full of lakes and lots of back roads we've already heard about. So this is the type of area that I want to spend the rest of my years. I've dedicated my life to public service, both through community and employment endeavors. And I've applied for this vacancy as I want to continue to serve the public in my retirement years. I'm drawn by the opportunity to return to having a personal direct impact that will better the lives of constituents. I think that's what a municipal councillor can, what a good municipal councillor does. The saying goes that timing is everything, and that's key to me applying at this time. I did consider running in the last election as well, but a combination of personal and professional responsibilities was taking up the bulk of my time and energy, and I'm not someone to commit halfway, so I deferred at that time. My personal commitments have stabilized, and I am a few weeks away from concluding a 30+ year career with the Ontario Public Service. So timing is really perfect now for me to put my name forward. The role of a councillor is to be a voice for the citizens that they represent. I believe the following experiences and strengths that I will articulate would ensure that I would maximize the volume of that voice at this table. A councillor has to be visible and active in the community. So in addition to 30 years in public service, I have been very active in any of the communities that I've resided in. This includes election as a municipal councillor in the village of Omimi, which is now part of the city of Kawartha Lakes up in the Peterborough-Lindsay area. An active volunteer, I've been in youth athletics, referee, coach, organizer, been fortunate enough to coach at the Ontario Winter Games. I remain active myself in many sporting activities that our wonderful community provides for us. Though if you saw my golf game, you probably wouldn't agree with me that I'm overly active. But you know, my wife and I, we enjoy seeking out the nooks and crannies of the township on our weekly drives with the dogs. And you know, we've had some wonderful times in the northern portion of TLTI. You know, Wendy's Country Market, the Outlet, and one of my personal favorites, which is the Chip Truck in Lyndhurst. What I can commit to is that I will be readily and easily accessible to all members of Ward 2 and the rest of the township, preferably in person, but by any other means necessary or by any other means that anyone would desire. As I mentioned, I'm at the end of my career. I'm in my 4th decade as a public servant. Through some progressively responsible positions, I've developed a number of skills and competencies I think that would be of great benefit to this table and would balance out the skills and competencies that are already here. I've developed strong political acuity and am proficient in engaging with all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal. I have some strong superior communication skills that would really support ongoing stakeholder engagement, both formal and informal. The vast majority of my experience is in the informal basis on a day-to-day basis in the work that I would undertake. I think I've really demonstrated the capacity to develop trusting and respectful relationships with anyone that I interact with. And I do that through the use of transparency and collaboration, which are the cornerstones of my interpersonal relationship skills. I have a strong financial acumen that was developed over years of oversight and responsibility for very large sums of public funds. My approach to this responsibility is to constantly remind myself and anybody who's working with me that it's not our money. It belongs to the taxpayers. And so by taking a value for money focus, by having thorough audit processes, transparent financial reporting, you know, we can create a foundation for a responsible and accountable government. I'm acutely aware of the multitude of social, economic, and human services issues that face society. And that includes those of us who live here in the township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. Whether it be affordable housing, mental health and addictions, access to healthcare, shifting population demographics, economic diversification, inflation, especially recently, equitable access to technology. These are all prime examples of the challenges facing this municipality. So my pledge is that my knowledge, experience, and most importantly, my ability to listen will be brought forward in order to tackle these issues head on with my council colleagues. I do want to respond to the additional question that was added in, if I may. What's the difference between volunteer activities, community activities, and council? And I think it comes down to two words: higher standard. I think as a member of council, you are held to and should be held to a much higher standard than anyone who's involved in the community volunteering their time. I was a peace officer for the first 10 years of my career, and then moved into supervising peace officers. And as I was always tell them, you're not held to the same standard as everybody else. You need to be held to a higher standard. You need to hold yourself to a higher standard. So I think that's what a member of council has to do, is hold themselves to a higher standard than someone who would be out volunteering in the community. Community, don't get me wrong, community volunteering is the cornerstone of what keeps the heartbeat of a community going. But those who sit in a governance role need to hold themselves to that higher standard. So in summary, I would respectfully seek your support for my application to fill the vacant Ward 2 position. I would serve the citizens of that ward and the entire township with integrity and inclusion. I believe we should honor the past, celebrate the present, and prepare for the future. So I welcome the opportunity to gain the trust and respect of the community, the township employees, the mayor, and my fellow councillors. Thank you for your time.
As with all the other candidates, I'll go through the three questions. What prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And what are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands is facing?
Thank you. My name's Steve Williams. I'll probably be the rookie of the group here. I've only been here for 2.5 years. We've chosen this area to retire in, for my career anyways, and we want to call it home. So hopefully I can be part of that home and help council and the township as well. I would hope, if selected, it would be quite an honor to sit here and assist the township in moving forward in a future endeavor. My experiences, the majority of them come from the military. I've recently retired. They're coordinating and managing projects on a crown level, budgeting section, and project funding as well. Technical writing reports. I lead from the front. I lead by example. I will not sit back and tolerate abuse or anything else that followed the military in the last few years. And I did that at section level. Issues that, from what I've seen in my short time here, talking with people and neighbors and getting a sense of the community. It's balancing the revenue or the tax revenue coming in to the needs and the wants of what the people want as well. It's something that has to be taken very seriously, and we have to make sure everybody is involved, both at council level and the people. Recruiting doctors. I do not have a family doctor. My family was lucky enough to have it. Speaking with a few people within Sealy's Bay, they do not have family doctors. So coming up with an active and very intense recruiting drive to get doctors to come to Leeds, Thousand Islands, call home and set up a clinic here. Enticing businesses to come here. So we are uniquely set up. We're close to the 401. We have an international bridge nearby. We're right in between Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. We're in that perfect triangle. To entice the businesses to come here, obviously building of infrastructure, high-speed internet. People working from home recently would also be included within this. And finally, communication. Detailed, precise communication leads to transparency. Speaking with a few people within Sealy's Bay, they were not aware of some items that were coming down the pipe from council, whether they were interested or not. Some of the items even I've picked up off the road as well, heading to the post office. Recently, council set out or mailed out a piece of paper. I returned it, telling how they would like communication moving forward. I thought that was a great idea. We can always improve on communication, and hopefully that's one of the big priorities for council moving forward. In conclusion, even though I'm the rookie of the group, it's sounding like, hopefully you take my experiences into consideration, along with all the other candidates that have spoke here this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Foti.
Thank you, Chair. Did you want to expand on any things you've heard from residents? Namely, you referred to Sealy's Bay on what they would prefer to see in communication. Was there any preference to any source of communication?
I attended Remembrance Day at Sealy's Bay Legion recently. Something went wrong with the CD for either O Canada or God Save the Queen. Somebody was trying to get it out on the internet and they couldn't. They were stating that there were some issues with the high-speed internet there. Eventually, somebody found the CD and started playing it. There was also, somebody had mentioned a toll arm going in for the launch at Sealy's Bay. I had not heard about that, so I went into a deep dive on that as well. Nothing came up, whether it was rumor or not. It's all plays down to communication and defining goals and intent and objectives for council as well. Some of it is not getting through to the local people of Ward 2 in Sealy's Bay.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our last candidate for the evening is Mr. Brian Woodford. So the three questions, what prompted you to apply to serve on council? What experiences from your personal and professional life do you see as strengths in shaping how you would approach serving on council? And lastly, what are the most important issues that the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands is facing?
Greetings all. Thank you for having me. This is quite the honor and exciting. See all these candidates here today, what they brought to the table, and I'm just one person. One person that's going to be part of a great team, I hope, because we can work together, draw on each other's strengths, because that's what's really important. Surround yourself by experts. And I see a table of them here. Why did I want to become a counselor? Well, this is my home. First order of business is always get your home in order. Take responsibility for it. What a better way to do it than come here, be part of the driving force behind your township. If you have issues, try to solve the issues. Don't sit back and let somebody else complain. So yeah, I stepped up like the others here because we want to make a difference in our community. Driving in here tonight from Lyndhurst, it reminded me of that. We have such a beautiful area that we live in. We have so many resources. We have to take advantage of those. We have to spread it to the world. We've been doing a great job of that. But we got to do better with it. We can always do better. There's great marketing for us. Excellent. But we got to bring more people into us. My experience in the military, yes, I'm another military guy. I did 37 years. I've had key appointments, senior appointments. I've worked on boards. I've done technical writing. I've created syllabuses for courses. I've created standards. I was a flying instructor for many years. It's a lot of pressure. Met a lot of people, a lot of different perspectives, and a lot of great ideas. As one of the other candidates mentioned, we can't argue to get a solution. We all have ideas. Some ideas are better than others. A lot of times we got to combine ideas to make them work. My experience in the military has been a lot of that. I've traveled the world. I met a lot of people, a lot of cultures, a lot of different ways of looking at things. That's taught me a lot. Those who looked at my resume noticed my last thing was from 2017, retired. Yeah, that's a great thing. It allowed me to live in the township, look around the township, get to know the township better. I moved here in 2015, could have lived anywhere. But my wife and I have been through the township many times, driven the roads. I'm a fisherman, I'm a hunter. What a great area. And I've taken advantage of what this township has to offer. Now, 5 years, I'm going, well, now it's time to become a part of it. I know I can help. My experiences with my family, I was away a lot of times, so I missed a lot with my family. But while I was home, I was involved in the children's sports, YBC, T-ball, other things like that. Get involved where you can, a lot of volunteer with the military, different committees, making sure that my military house and people that work for me and with me had the best of what I could give them. I'm kind of a solution person. Everybody can list a problem, but we got to find solutions to problems. One of the things that everybody brought up, well, not everybody, a lot of people brought up the internet. I had a look at the internet map for high speed recently. Guess what? We've gotten in a lot of spots. There's a lot of holes, but they're coming. The contracts are out there from what I've heard, and it's coming. We are going to get it. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but if we work together, maybe we can speed things up a little bit, but it is coming, which was a big bonus for this township. It will bring people in. It will bring more jobs in. We talked about work from home. A lot of people like that. We mentioned our location along the 401, our proximity to Kingston, Brockville, Gananoque. You know what? We don't have the population base here to bring a big factory in, but we're positioned alongside population centers. If we work with them, we can bring those people to live in our township and become part of who we are. And that's so important because we can't go this alone. To get prepared for the future, and that's probably the biggest thing we have. Prepare ourselves to be successful for the future for our families. I've got 2 grandkids. They love coming up to my house and visiting and running around, and we take them up to the parks. That's why they come here. They enjoy the outdoors. They enjoy our outdoors. Just like all the other residents of this township. Looking at the map today as well, because I find a lot of spots have limited access to water. So I was looking at how can we increase access to water to get the people come in for these recreational things. We've got so many on open road allowances in this township that go directly to water that I didn't think was accessible. I go, well, on open road allowance, I can access that. I can get to some of those spots. So can other people. It's not off limits. We got to promote that with people. We got to let them know that, yeah, we have it. Come see us. We talked about housing. Yes, it is a problem. We do need more affordable housing. It's not unique to us. It's everybody has the same issue. So how are we going to solve it? Well, not by ourselves. We got to look at the provincial government, federal government, and within ourselves and our own community leaders to develop solutions that are attainable and sustainable. This is a spot I have chosen to live. This is a spot I have chosen for my family to live. Not lightly. That was a big decision. Could have lived anywhere when I left the military, but no, I chose here. And I want to promote the reasons that I came here to other people. We talked about volunteerism versus being a counselor. There is a difference, the standard we hold ourselves to, but the big thing is the volunteers make this entire community work. Without volunteers, we can have a council, but nothing's really going to happen. I moved to Lyndhurst when actually 2 years before I retired. And the first thing my realtor said, oh, by the way, we park cars on your lawn for the turkey fair. Okay, fine. Keep doing it. And we've done it ever since. I've done parking for the turkey fair. I've done traffic at the bridge, that horrible 1-lane bridge in Lyndhurst with the speed limit too high. We're lucky we haven't killed somebody there. That's a safety issue. That's something that I personally want to address. The bridge is too narrow for 50 kilometers an hour. When you see someone pushing a stroller or with a walker, with the 2 dugouts on the side for the water runoff, the road is not wide enough. We've got to do something before somebody gets killed there. For me, I'm just happy to be here and be given this opportunity. And I'll let the council pick who they feel can best help this township and serve its members.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. CIO. And thank you to those listening in for their patience with our technological challenges early on in the meeting, but I think we got everything sorted. And thank you for taking the time. For those of you who were here listening this evening, participating in the process, I know that we've received a number of emails and contacts from residents about this process, and we appreciate each and everybody's notice, whether it be for or against. in support of someone else, for or against the way that we're doing it, but it's all about being involved and being part of the community and part of the process. So with that, I'll move on to item number 5. Oh, sorry. Can I ask everybody to turn their video back on? Thank you. Okay, so the next item is number 5, upcoming meeting dates. On May 17th, next week, it's another special council meeting at 6 p.m. for the Ward 2 appointment. So we will take time to deliberate based on your presentations this evening and make a decision. And then the following evening on May the 18th at 6 p.m., there will be a declaration of the Councillor Ward 2 and a swearing in ceremony at that time. So if you are chosen, the clerk will reach out and make arrangements for you to be here, but also you're welcome to watch the council meeting on Zoom if you don't want to make the trip in. But there will be deliberation in camera as well as open. Next item is the confirmatory bylaw, and that motion comes forward from Brian Maybe and seconded by Terry Fody. The three readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 23-036, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its May 10th, 2023 special council meeting. Discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. And through you, your worship, I'd just like to say before we adjourn, what a pleasure it is to listen to such quality people coming before us. I was very touched and thought everyone intelligent and I thought great presentation. So thank you to everyone for stepping up. It's quite incredible that we have such a good field. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Are there any other comments to be made? I should have allowed that from council. It wasn't on my agenda. I'm trying to follow the agenda. Go ahead, Councillor. Maybe go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to all the candidates, I would like to also extend that warm welcome to all that participated in tonight's activities, as well as the heartfelt comments, which ended up being a lot of a mess on my page. But thank you very much, one and all, for being here and enjoying and showing us the roster of candidates we have to choose from, and you've made it harder to actually choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I reiterate my fellow councillors' thoughts. I would like to challenge the residents in the township. If you haven't read the resumes of these 8 individuals here tonight, do so. It's impressive. It really and truly is. You know, it bodes well for the future of the township to have people like yourselves willing to step forward, and I applaud you all. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I would just also like to say prior to adjournment that unfortunately we can only pick one of you. So what I ask you to do in the event that you aren't the successful candidate, there are always opportunities to serve on other committees that are committees of council. We're always looking for people when the election, after the election is concluded, for the library board, for committee of adjustment, for our peer committee. And I know that these are all very important pieces to help us guide and move the township forward. So I'll just plant that seed so that if you wish to give of your time and you aren't able to get through this particular process, we would very much encourage you to submit your applications for those committees in the future. And with that, I'll put the motion for adjournment on the floor, which is Councillor Maybe and seconded by Councillor Fody, that the council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried.